Vampirism is a funny thing. There are some aspects that make living a nightmare, but other parts make you the nightmare towards other people. For example, we're talking about Just Roll With It, the Suckening today. Are you surprised? Probably not, but I digress. Before we start, let me just announce this will have spoilers about the plot and the characters. Run now. You have 7 seconds before I get into the video. Get out of here. Give Just Roll With It money to watch the whole thing. Okay, with them out of the way, let's become vampires. Bleh! I'm the Jimmy Buffett vampire. Originally, this was gonna have fangs, but the stench of the powder to make the mold for said fangs smelled so bad I had a panic attack before this. So, we're living without fangs. Let's get into the characters. Amizel Tucker. Amizel reminds me of my cousin/brother John. He once got arrested for breaking and entering an abandoned house to read comic books in the attic. He has straight up said to a cop, "I don't have a dad," because his mom/my aunt is a lesbian. Amizel is a fun character. Also, the interactions with his sire are so funny and weirdly queer, which makes it even funnier and flow so well. That's definitely a mote of a personality trait that I can relate to be confusing and confounding as possible in every situation. Amizel starts it, Gabriel continues it. In another life, I feel like they could have been good friends. Like high school friends you have one class with and only look forward to that class because of them, but friendship wouldn't exist outside of that class. That type of friendship. Theo, Soda, last name I completely have forgotten. Collins. This I've been the most verbose about. My name is Theo. I only drink soda to the point where I was actually sent to the hospital for dehydration. I have at least 2 64-ounce water bottles in my house right now. Also, I have this. I really need Charlie to stop creating characters that are eerily similar to my real life. I think my life is real. Am I actually a Charlie Slimesicle character in disguise? Shiloh Betheroy, the #1 Blorbo in my catalog. Just look at him. He's a twink who's been sheltered his entire life. Living that Rapunzel. What's not to love? Mother Gothel thinking she knows best, but we all know how that story ends. The dynamics created with every character they interact with are so good and super relatable to me personally. I grew up very isolated with very little interaction to anyone outside of my household and school, but that doesn't really count. All of my close friends from this time of my life all moved away until I was the friend that moved away. Okay, that's enough. That's enough for me. More of these dang vampires. Grefgor. Grefgor, oh Grefgor. Wherefore art thou, Grefgor? No, seriously, where the fuck is he? I know in the original context of Romeo and Juliet, wherefore is actually akin to or synonymous with why, but where the fuck is Grefgor right now in canon? I'm making this before the final episode on purpose. Where the fuck is he, Charlie? Arthur Bennett. Arthur is like if you take a Dark Academia Polyvore board, remember Polyvore? And made it into a person. Plus, his story is fucking immaculate. His convictions and purposes expertly played. Just overall, a great character. Every twist and turn this character pulls out, you know it's gonna be good. And honestly, Arthur is a lot like Castiel from Supernatural. Like the dynamic of, at points, he could be super serious and, I don't know, make the plot progress instead of prolonging bits until I want to tear off my ears. But at other points, he could be the funniest character with the most deadpan expression, which is just top tier comedy to me. Deacon Keller. We love a good vampire cowboy. Actually, this is a safari hat I got from Animal Kingdom in 2016. Honestly, I think Deacon is very similar to Sunny from A Bronx Tale, the musical. A very charismatic and likable character in universe. The only difference is that Deacon is a sheriff, Sunny is implied to be part of the mob. Well, you could count Deacon part of the mob if you consider Edward Twilight's entire deal being a generic brand of the mob. Viv and Vex Wayland. I have a problem. I have actually asked my friend who, let me gush about them for just a second, is going into a doctorate program for autism research on why I could be so obsessive over these two characters, especially the latter. She said, and I quote, "Science autistic, artistic ADHDer, both traumatized and numb and don't understand others, probably empathy problems." Okay, motherfucker, game on. They recently went to France just to visit a bakery that is seen on Miraculous Ladybug. Shit, that they still win, because she could go places from her favorite shows. I don't care. Either way, these characters are the most fun characters in this entire series. Between you and me, I would allow them to run experiments on me. I was already planning on donating my body to science, so why not do it now? Edward Twilight. I want to kill this bitch. Bad vibes central. I don't know why, but from his first introduction at Club Crepuscule, I wanted to grab his stupid little face and shove it into the ground and curb stomp it. This is making me very overtly violent towards a fictional character. We need a vibe reset. The overall story being displayed is like if you put the plot of Twilight and The Parent Trap into a blender, then made paper out of it and wrote a whole new story. But in typical JRWI fashion, you have to pay attention fully, or else someone will threaten to turn you into a meatball and a building will explode from right under your nose, leaving you confused on how these events transpire. ADHD be damned, there are 4 buildings that explode and I do not remember how or why. I love the character introductions. Beginning with Amizel, who starts human, and after a classic alley gang fight, where the only answer of being bitten is to bite back, is brought into the unlife. He is the embodiment of fucking around to find out, but without prompt. The next introduction was from the high society life called being trapped in a castle. Shiloh comes in, and we learn everything we need to from him within the first 5 minutes. He is trapped in his room, and he wants out. There is nothing hidden, because everything was hidden from him. He fucked around and is finding out currently what it all means. Finally, we are introduced to Arthur. The first thing he does is break into someone's house to drink some blood, like a classic vampire. Then he gets arrested by the vampire cops, aka Deacon. If you want the analogy, he fucked around and found out, but in a different way. I like the fact that they don't stay in a group very often. Normally in a campaign, that is a DM's nightmare, having to do separate scenes for each character. But with how short this series is, it works very well. And since the characters are coming from vastly different backgrounds, Shiloh from vampiric royalty, Amizel from the literal streets and LA underground, and Arthur is British, it shows how different they are from each other. Plus, they don't have a common end goal until they decided, hey, ho ho, Edward Twilight's got to go. Hey, ho ho. Arthur was to kill his sire and unbecome a vampire. Shiloh was to figure out what his mom was hiding from him for the past 18 years of his life. Yeah, Shiloh ages normally. And Amizel was just Amizel, who unwillingly got dragged into the vampiric mess and is actively making it worse for everyone who cares for the culture. I also love the secret twins subplot. It's one of my favorite plot devices, and I think this series portrays it very well. Another series that did this very well is... Can you guess the next words to come out of Ted's mouth? Is it A, The Parent Trap, B, The Adventure Zone, C, Jacob and Esau, specifically from The Binding of Isaac, or D, Barbie's Princess and the Pauper? Write your answers on a piece of paper and mail it to this P.O. box to lock it in. The Adventure Zone Balance. Are you surprised? Shut up, you. Anyways, in Taz Balance, during the Stolen Century arc, we find out that one of the main PCs, Taco, has a twin sister named Loop. This has been hinted at almost since the beginning, since he picked up the Umber Staff for the first time in, episode 2. Her entire story is so sad, and I love it. Can't wait for the Suffering Game graphic novel to come out so I could cry over Magnus basically dying and being stuffed in a mannequin in visual form instead of just audio. To get back on topic, in here, it's very clear that Amizel and Shiloh are twins, but they don't see it themselves until other characters bring it up. And it brings another big plot point. The Queen of all vampires had not just one, but 2 sons, and kept them hidden for almost 2 decades. Then, at Club Crepuscule, Amizel shouting out that he is also a prince of vampiric kind, just to defy Edward Twilight's self-flattering circle jerk. Immaculate comedic timing. Chef's kiss. The scenes with the Unseen One are so cinematic and I don't know a better word for it other than rad as hell. The Unseen Ones being part of the Nosferatu clan makes so much sense because Nosferatu are ugly as hell. Nobody would want to see all that. I'm so glad that I made it into the free episodes because if we didn't see that, I wouldn't have the same opinions on it. Plus, what happens in there is the most weighty this series, or this podcast, could be. Arthur killing his sire was such a badass scene. Coupled with Tweedledee and Tweedledum literally manipulating an entire senior center to help Amizel's gang, whom he literally forgot he was a part of, from his sire that became a crazy-ass spider, that part was amazing, and on par with the tone of both this campaign and podcast in general. Equal parts silly and serious, the embodiment of RU/J or /SRS. Wayland time. I love the Waylands. They're my favorite flavor of fucked up. Making amalgamations out of used body parts, I actually wrote a fanfiction about them. Okay, listen, I have some free time. I make these types of videos for crying out loud. It was basically Vex finally having a Amizel. I'm sorry. Shamia Shamai. Trapped in a place where he can't just kill himself and escape. Vex then goes on to how he would meticulously tear each limb, organ, and orifice off, and what he would do with them. For example, taking out the lungs, filling them with Orbeez, and leaving them in the LA River. If you want to read the entire thing because it's all that vibe, and there's a twist at the end, I posted it on AO3, link in the description. Might write more, who knows? Anyways, Viv is the bones of the operation. I would like to say the more level-headed one of the two. She is meticulous and precise. Science and math. I really like the dynamic between her and Arthur. Probably the healthiest relationship in this entire campaign so far. Vex is the flesh. I really like everything about this character. I don't know what else to say about this guy. He is my best friend. End of story. It's unhealthy at this point. I do want to talk about them just a little bit more. We're going to step out of the series and go into headcanon territory. When are the Waylands, is my question. I made a series of tweets trying to make a timeline for these two, and I want to share it with the class in an audio format, so you have to listen to me. I think the Waylands are from the 1910s to the 1930s, solely based on attire. I think they were part of a mob family located in either New York or Chicago, and it would be absolutely bonkers if they ran with Al Capone. Yes, I'm saying they're Italian and from New York, but I'm not being biased. I swear, it's not. Okay, I'm being biased, but that's besides the point. The artists who worked on this are simply amazing. The thumbnails by Shan. I love their art in general. The painterly style, while not making it too realistic. If you look closely enough, they're just squiggles. You can count the brush strokes, and I love it. The character PNGs by Saturn. You went too hard. I think my favorite is Deputy Shiloh, just with the little star accessory added to the normal one. He is such a goof, I love it. The backgrounds are fucking crazy. Evo and Weedle. I love backgrounds. Backgrounds make the scene. No, I'm keeping that. Backgrounds make the scene. Plus, the dynamic viewpoints make me happy and feel emotions. In the end, this campaign has become one of my all-time favorites out of all campaigns from a multitude of shows. And I don't really like vampires that much. Okay, that's a flat-out lie. When I was in 6th grade, I used to call myself a vampire because my adult canines were growing over my baby teeth through my gums. So it looked like I had fangs for like an entire year. Don't worry, I got them pulled down and braces, fixed that travesty. It was not a good look. Plus I had like thin glasses. Ugh. But I have never read Twilight. I've only seen the movie parody, Vampires Suck. Which in comparison to this series, it's just a one-on-one. Alright, I'm done with this bit. Blah blah!